City Council for November 15th, 2021 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Capellini.
Here.
Mr. Fry.
Here.
Mr. Hanem.
Here.
Mr. McCann.
Here.
Mr. Richardson. Absent. Mrs. Howe.
Here.
Mrs. Westfall.
Here.
Mr. Richardson is excused. 6 members of City Council are present, so a quorum does exist. We have no public present this evening, so we'll move right to our Pledge of Allegiance, this meeting led by Mr. Hanem.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda, you all have at your seats an informational sheet that's been provided by the service director concerning the intersection improvements at Monroe and Silica. Rather than to let you think about that until Kevin gets to ask about it, I'm going to go ahead and add it, and he can tell us about it when we get there in the agenda. We'll make it item 14. Monroe Silica information. No action required. I have no other items. Mr. Fry?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Members of City Council? Capellini?
I'd like to make a request for, I guess it's a streets request, for a traffic circulation plan for the neighborhood near the freeway exit. Can explain it more when we get there.
Talking probably north of Alexis of US 20. Make that agenda item 15. Called it Neighborhood Circulation
A
Plan.
traffic circulation plan.
Neighborhood Traffic Circulation. Any additional items from members of City Council? Mr. Sanford. Mr. Schroyer. Captain Miller, thank you for being here this evening. Anything from the police department? Mr. Aller. Mrs. Brining.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and the agenda is approved and amended. Approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting on November the 1st. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move adoption of the meeting minutes for the council meeting of November 1st, 2021 as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes, November 1, as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and those meeting minutes are approved. First business item, second reading of the 2022 budget. First reading occurred back on November 1st. Discussion with the finance director today. I was informed there have been no changes made to the budget. Interim questions to him. Administration is in favor of final approval tonight if that is council's wish. If there's any discussion, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fry for discussion. We are comfortable with the proceeding. There's been no input from the public or from.
Mr. Mayor, I'm perfectly comfortable and forward after the second reading. That's additionally what we've done in the past few years I've been on council. So I'm okay with doing that unless somebody wants to go to the third reading and give the public more time to ask questions.
I'm comfortable moving forward.
Well, with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 71-2021 and read by title only. To make appropriations for the current expenditures and other expenditures of the city of Sylvania, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022, I move adoption of ordinance number 71, 2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 71, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and ordinance number 71, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Thank you, Troyer, for your work on that, and thank you for all the department heads for their work in assembling the work that was necessary for that document to be prepared. Moving on to agenda item 6, right-of-way extension for Country Place. This was referred by City Council at the last meeting. The Plan Commission viewed it, has sent their recommendation to approve. Mr. Aller, you're the appropriate person to give the explanation to this. This is not the first one of these that the city has done for safe operation of city equipment.
That's correct. We had done a similar turnaround setup, if you will, on Colonial Court. That was with some private homeowners that were getting ready to develop the property. This Country Place dead ends into the Moose Lodge property, and we've talked with the Moose about putting in a similar turnaround for that, for dump trucks during snow operations, garbage trucks during the recycling and refuse operations. And they were in agreement with it. The way that the tax map office requires us to do it is to extend the right-of-way through an existing anti-vehicular easement, and then ultimately we'll have come back to council with a easement that's actually on the Moose Lodge property. It's a little abstract. I don't know. I thought it could be done much easier than this, but it's the way the tax map office wants it downtown. So this is just a matter to extend the right-of-way, and I believe we have to have a public hearing for that. So, in fact, I know we do. So it's just a matter of getting that set.
Question from the Plan Commission was that would the Moose Lodge use this for ingress and egress? My answer was there is another 1 foot lot being put across there, so they couldn't build a permanent driveway across it. On that?
Yeah, it still has an anti-vehicular easement on it. It just gets extended. I think it's 20 feet, I think is what we're using there.
It's not intended in any way to be a rear entrance or exit for
No.
the Moose traffic. They are the 6th largest Moose Club in the state. They do have an extremely large parking.
Yeah.
And this is not intended to dump people into the residential neighborhood.
No.
Just wanted to clarify that. The clerk has proposed January 3rd, first meeting of the year, as the possible hearing date.
Mr. Mayor, do we have a council before we have our organizational meeting on the,
That, to me, is a problem. The
Yeah, why don't we-
organizational meeting comes ahead of the first.
why don't we schedule it for 7:30 and have the public hearing at the conclusion of our council? We could do that.
Or you could have the organizational meeting first, then the public. But I still prefer your method. With thinking it, I kind of like that.
Yeah. So, I'll move that we set a public hearing for, number on, for the right-of-way extension on Country Place. Move we notice it for 6:30, but designate that we will hold the public hearing at the conclusion of our council meeting on 3rd. Set it for 7:30. Notice it for 7:30, but conduct it at the conclusion of our council meeting in January.
Second.
Moved and seconded to advertise for the public hearing, for this right-of-way extension for January 3rd, 2022, following council meeting. All in favor?
I have a question before we go to, have we had any inquiries about there? Is there any? objection that we're aware of it?
The Moose Lodge is fully in favor of it, and because it's not a rear access or anything of that nature, I wouldn't anticipate that any of the adjoining
Okay.
neighbors. Yeah, we actually, this one, we actually replaced a portion of a driveway because our trucks broke down the driveway in doing a turnaround. And so I think the homeowners in the area will welcome it.
Thank you.
Council members now know that it's not a rear entrance or exit for the Moose Club. If you get inquiries, you know, tell them that. Administration will as well. All in favor of setting the public hearing date for January the 3rd following the council meeting indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Clerk is so ordered to advertise that public hearing. On to agenda item 7 is an H2O Ohio grant application for a restoration project in Richards Park. Mr. Aller.
Mr. Mayor, in our discussions with Ohio EPA and Ohio Department of Natural Resources as part of our Haroon Road project, we asked our consultant to take a look at the area down around Richards Park, which is just west of, it's on the west side of Bonnie Brook, right at the bridge that's on Bonnie Brook that goes over 10 Mile Creek. We've had inquiries from neighbors on the north side of 10 Mile Creek in that area through the years as to concerns that they had about losing their rear yard. The stream bank was eroding with during the high flows and things of that nature. The aerial analysis that CEC, Civil and Environmental Consultants, CEC, the aerial analysis that they did showed that bank has actually eroded at a little over half a foot a year, about 6 inches a year. It goes further and further into the rear yards of those homes. That area, if you take a look at the map that's included, attached to the letter, the darker green and black hatched, that is the existing layout of 10 Mile Creek, and you can see it's got a lot of 90-degree turns. And when you look at natural flows, as you can imagine, 90-degree turns aren't the most advantageous. That's where you get your high erosions and start losing banks. Then the material deposits in other places, which makes it tougher for the water to get through, which increases the erosion and things of that nature. What we're proposing is that we redirect 10 Mile Creek to I'll call it turquoise route, and remove those 90-degree turns and have a more laminar flow through that section of 10 Mile Creek. The existing section will still be used. It'll be set up as a weir system so that during the high flows, when we get the really big rains and the flood type rains, that the water will still flow into that area as kind of a overflow path, if you would, and then the materials that flow into that then would settle out, and that area would ultimately become a wetland with the material that's deposited in there. It would not be wet year-round. It would only take on water when the flows were too high for the existing stream to take it, and then with the longer periods of dry weather, then it would become just a dry area, much as it is now. We will be putting in, obviously we'll have the redirection of the stream. We'll be putting in some cross veins, riffles, and J-hooks and things of that nature that we put in the first phase of Haroon Park and plan to put in the second phase if we get that grant. And a lot of work to be done in just that short area. Civil environmental consultants have estimated the work to be about $1,485,000 in there. And through the H2 Ohio program, we are able to apply for 100% grant application for all of that work, so we could get it all paid for through the state. In our talks with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, when we had our initial discussion to find out what their thoughts were on the project and, to kind of give us an idea, is it worth the effort to go through, they strongly encouraged us to submit the project and were very interested in the benefits of the project. So there's no guarantees, but they're typically pretty honest. If they don't think that you've got a good project, they'll tell you that and not waste your time. So we're hopeful with it, but we would ask for permission to move forward with the grant application and see how we do with the other applications in the state.
You have the property owners identified on the west side, the property owners that are on Little Road. And I know at least two of them that are identified. Is any of the work on their property, or is it all on City of Sylvania property?
It's all on, well, in that area on the Little Road end, it's all on City of Sylvania property. There will be some work that's done just maybe 15 feet or so onto the rear of a couple of those properties.
On the north side?
Yes.
That I think benefits them.
Yep. We had.
I've been on one of those properties a long time ago. Norman Thal lived in one of those houses.
Okay. We had initially talked to one of the property owners because we wanted to make a slight change to what that turquoise route is that we think would provide a little bit better flow. If you see, we're still going to have a 90-degree turn. If you look in the lower left of that map, we're still going to have a 90-degree turn. And we were trying to smooth that out a little bit and bring that up through the property that's labeled Mustafa. We talked to that property owner, and he had no interest in having any of that on his property. So we just backed away from that and are doing the project as it's shown here.
Project will result in quite a few trees coming down as well.
It will.
As clarification, this is separate from the Phase 2 plan in Haroon Park,
That's correct.
and one is not dependent on the other.
No.
And this is just a grant application, 100% grant application. Eventually, the city would have to go in and do its own funded work on these creeks to keep them moving along. There are other drainage ways in the city of Sylvania that are having some erosion problems as well.
Yes.
I'd like to see this done with State of Ohio funds wherever we can. Administration is asking for a resolution authorizing us to file a grant for these restoration funds.
Eller, any of the other properties other than Mustafa?
We've spoken with, excuse me. Yeah, we've spoken with probably about, I'm going to say maybe a half a dozen of them, just through the years because of the erosion concerns. But we have not had a neighborhood meeting or anything like that with all of the property owners. Oh, yes.
I
I would have to, the grant application will have public participation type requirements.
I certainly
so-
don't understand facing what we're
Yeah, it's not like we're right in their backyard. This area is all low-lying, tree, marshy, muddy area
studying.
already. Yeah, it's not area that they can use for it. They're not having backyard parties in this area. So,
Add to that, I also know you're not,
right.
Mr. Aller, could mention that if we get the application and we move forward with the project, that we be creating wetlands.
Yes.
How much wetland are we going to?
The, excuse me, if you look at the dark green areas there, which is basically the, existing creek line, that is, right now, that's proposed to be, what will be the new wetland area. Now, we're taking a look, we don't have things finalized yet because we're still taking a look to see if there's a benefit to, if you've seen all of the work that Lucas County Engineer has done in the Centennial Road area and west, where they've done some step enlargement of the banks, we're taking a look to see if that might be beneficial here as well. So we don't, this is a preliminary design that we have right here, but it is what we reviewed with the state, and they're open to the step bank possibility as well. So,
The reason I was asking is and you know a lot more about this certainly than I could ever know, but it's my general recollection that when you're looking at construction projects from time to time, you need wetlands if you're going to utilize certain spaces, and you need wetlands to offset that. I don't know where we're at in regards to the city's circumstances, but would this potentially be an offset we could utilize somewhere else if we chose to do so?
we might be able to. There's typically a I'll call it a deadline. You can only bank this wetland for say 5 years, and then after that, then you kind of lose it. But we might be able to use this as an offset on something.
Also,
Yep, you can sell it. Yep. hmm Yeah, we've actually we haven't done it here, but in the past I've purchased wetland mitigation from areas over in Cleveland and that nature. Yep.
Could give it to
Mhm.
Brian. All right. This is just a resolution 17 granting the administration authorization to submit the application. Mrs. Capolini, would you like to present this one?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to read resolution number 17-2021 by title only. All members of council having previously received copies. A resolution authorizing the mayor and director of finance to file a grant application with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources H2 Ohio program for the Richards Park Stream Restoration Project, and declaring an emergency and
Final pass.
for moving final passage.
It has been moved and seconded for passage of Resolution 17, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and Resolution number 17, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Moving on to Agenda Item 8. This is for Public Defender Services in the Sylvania Municipal Court. Mrs. Brining?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see, since 2005, we've had agreements with the Lucas County Commissioners to provide public defender services in our court, and the cost has kind of fluctuated through the years, but we now only pay for public defender services for city code cases, which was, last year was $12,150, and then, or this year, I'm sorry, and then next year it will be $11,250. They do a great job in the court, and we would recommend approval.
There's no questions. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce ordinance number 72-2021 and read by title only. Authorizing the mayor and director of finance to enter into an agreement on behalf of the city of Sylvania, Ohio, with the Board of Lucas County Commissioners for the provision of public defender services to the city Sylvania Municipal Court for the year 2022. I move adoption of ordinance 72-2021 as an emergency measure.
Second.
Been moved and seconded for passage of ordinance 72, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and ordinance 72, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. On to agenda item 9. This was deferred from the previous council meeting with some questions. I know Mr. Hanem presented the questions, and he has confirmed the law director's amendment to the resolution, I believe. And
Correct.
we bring this back for passage. This was actually in Mr. Richardson's committee. He is not here this evening. First off, are there any questions about the resolution as revised? All right, the law director informs me that Mr. Richardson had a shot at this as well, and he agrees with it. Mr. Hanem, you are also on that committee. Would you like to read this one?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move adoption of resolution number 11-2021. And I will read by title only, affirming the 5 I's of disability justice and committing to use the 5 I's of disability justice framework in city policy review and development, declaring an emergency and moving for final passage.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for passage of resolution number 11, 2021 as an emergency measure. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and resolution 11, 2021 is enacted as an emergency measure. Agenda item 10, I have reappointed my appointment to the TARDA Board of Directors, the Board of Trustees, Mary Morrison. She was appointed midterm. I have reappointed her. She is performing very well on that board. She has already risen to co-chair of the Board of Trustees for TARDA. She is deeply involved in the work going on at TARDA. They did successfully pass their sales tax issue, so there is lots of work afoot at TARDA. And I ask that you confirm this reappointment of Mary Morrison. Mr. Fry? Question? I'm sorry.
I would like to,
You have a conflict of interest in
Yes.
contact with the TARDA board, TARDA management. I need a motion to allow Lindsay to push back.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of that indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show that Ms. Dow has pushed back from the table due to a conflict of interest. Now is there a motion to confirm the mayor's appointment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion to confirm your appointment of Ms. Mary Morrison to the Toledo Area Regional Transit Authority Board.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to confirm the mayor's appointment of Mary Morrison. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Good to have good appointees on board that rise up to a leadership position that quickly. Let the record show that Ms. Dow is now rejoining us at the table. There was not a big pushback. It was only about a foot or two.
I was hoping that would serve enough.
All right. Agenda item 11 is a Notice of a new C1 beer only in sealed containers liquor license. Captain, are you prepared to address this one? Go right ahead.
We have reviewed the application. At this time, we find no reason to request a hearing. It appears it's CEOs and other administrative heads out of Columbus that are owners of the Bob Evans restaurant chain that has the ownership of this.
Say that again? Who has ownership of this?
It appears to be a Bob Evans restaurant
I thought you said.
LLC. Yes. That's kind of what we said. But they must own part of Bob Evans in this area as well as the Dollar Generals.
Okay. So Bob Evans isn't gonna start, okay, I'm just making sure. I
No.
understand.
We're not sure that that's accurate.
I'm still struggling with that thought process.
Okay, we are unsure about that, but you didn't find any ownership issues, no schools or churches too close. If, sure, most of you have been by this facility as construction has been completed up on Alexis Road. They've been stocking the store, a little better Dollar General store than the run-of-the-mill Dollar General store, thanks to Mr. Aller's efforts with them. He worked for several months to make it a little better appearance. We appreciate that. But
I will admit, I'm not familiar with Dollar General, but is this standard that they have liquor permits?
A beer liquor
Yeah.
permit, that's all. Yeah.
Okay,
A lot of places sell beer.
yeah. Showing my cultural ignorance.
We do have one down on Sylvania Avenue,
Yeah.
adjacent to the old Food Town Plaza that's there. I'm sure that they have a beer there as well. Compete with the gas station.
Okay.
All right, if there's no objection, we should file a motion not to request a local hearing.
So moved.
Moved and seconded not to request a local hearing for this new C1 beer-only liquor permit and C2 wine. All in favor of that indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Going to page 2 of our amended agenda. We had no scheduled committee reports. Are there any committee reports to be made at this time? Or any committee referrals? Moving on to agenda item 14, the additional item, this informational piece about the intersection improvements at Monroe and Silica. Mr. Aller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The piece that you have in front of you is something that will be mailed to they're deemed interested parties. Basically, it's anybody that joins the property. If they attended the public information meeting that we had at Northview High School, they'll also be included. But this is the last piece of our public information requirement that's part of the ODOT grant funds that we're receiving. Typically, they may require a meeting, but because we held the meeting prior to the project, they are agreeable to sending this information flyer out to those people that attended. I won't read the entire document to you, of course. I think you're familiar with what's happening at Monroe and Silica with additional turning lanes and then the additional eastbound lane on Monroe Street. And then for the bridge on the second page, the two pictures that are there on the left side is what it looks like today if you look at it from the top. And then the picture on the right is what it will look like when we have it constructed. And then we also have the little bump out there will be a setting area for people to be able to just sit and listen to the stream. We'll have some flowers in there. There will be, as you know, City Council named that bridge the Don Townsend Gateway Bridge, and so we'll have a plaque commemorating that on the bridge. And that walkway there will be wide enough through there. It'll be a 10-foot walkway so that we'll be able to extend our multi-use paths up to Erie Street and hopefully further to the south as we move along with some other projects. So the project's moving along very well. Most of our time at this stage has been dealing with the railroad in the crossing. But this will be as I indicated, this will be the last information piece that goes out to the general public. So obviously we can have, some media releases and things of that nature, but this is the last official piece, so to speak.
Will we post this on our website somehow?
Yes, yeah, it'll be on our website. The day that we send it out to the interested parties, it'll be posted on that day. Yep.
That date will replace the October X 2021 date on it?
Yes.
Okay. Review with us again the construction schedule.
This will be 2023 construction. We'll be finishing up all of the engineering and all of that through 2022, and then construction taking place in 23. We are planned to do as much of the project as we possibly can. It will be late spring 23 when we start. Our discussions with the school has been, they prefer, if we're going to, we can't get this done in the summer. The project just takes too long. And the school would prefer that we mess with their end of the year schedule versus the beginning of the year schedule. So we'll be starting this in mid to late spring so that we're finished by the start of school in August of 23. So.
And it's the bridge, taking the bridge out of service is the major hurdle.
Yes, that it basically takes Silica Road out of service for the schools, so.
Closure?
I believe the bridge itself was a 5-month project, and the intersection project we're still working. We do not have definitive times on that one yet.
Football games begin about mid-August now. That's a big traffic generator.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, in 23 and 22, we do know that that's going to be the end of August into Labor Day. What it's going to be in 23, we don't know. So.
Now, if you hadn't read the announcement in the paper, now the Dana LPGA Classic presented by Marathon, and will be Labor Day weekend, not 4th of July week. That was published, or announced and published last week. We assume the same for 23.
It's only a one-year contract.
Okay, don't know. All right, any questions for Mr. Aller? No action is required. Hearing none, let's move on to added agenda item 15, a discussion or request for a neighborhood traffic circulation plan. Mrs. Capolini.
Yes, thank you. So I recently have had discussions with kind of a lot of people on acres, mostly young families with little kids, and really the only thing that they wanted to talk about was how fast the cars were going and trucks, large trucks that were cutting through, driving fast. So most of them were like, we can't let our kids go out in the front yard, it's too busy. So a couple meetings ago when we started talking about Marshall Road and widening Marshall Road, which is now a quiet residential street with a park at the end of it. There's kids riding their bike, there's people walking down Marshall Road. And we were talking about freeway traffic. And so, I mean, I'm obviously not a street engineer, but I did like a tiny bit of research, and I was just wondering if we have a traffic circulation plan so that I would hate to see these quiet, cute neighborhoods flooded with freeway traffic when they could just as easily be circulated around the neighborhood. And seems like that's the thing to do, is you have a plan where you're going to send the freeway traffic so it doesn't cut through the neighborhoods next to parks where kids are riding their bicycles. So I was wondering if we already had one a lot of people on acres were asking me how this was going to affect them, and I really couldn't answer them exactly. So I feel like we should be transparent, and like they want to know, and I want to know too.
We can take a look at that. I'm not aware, we've done traffic counts, but we haven't done vehicle type counts. So I'm not familiar that we have a large truck problem on acres. So I would have to take a look at that with vehicle types. But it's not our intent to redirect any of this freeway traffic that comes off of the freeway onto those residential streets. It was more to handle the type of traffic that is currently using Acres Road. But we can certainly take a look at the vehicle types.
Could we do a no truck traffic kind of thing on acres?
There are heavy trucks coming down there now?
I would have to
Not a truck
I'd have to
route.
research that. Yeah, I don't, that's why the large truck
That's
claim
what the neighbors were telling
kind
me,
of-
and I wasn't
kind of
gonna-
caught me by
they live there.
surprise, so.
I think I'd like to do a survey, have the police department do some speed checks on there, as we have done on other roads in the last couple of months. There are speed humps on acres which do slow you down, maybe not enough,
The bottom.
and let's get a recommendation how to slow the existing traffic down. If there's illegal traffic on it, we need to enforce that and get it off of there because it doesn't belong on there. Sure, there's pickup trucks there, but these are people streaking down from Michigan to get to Alexis Road, most of which head east. I don't know that it has a whole lot to do with expressway traffic. I think it's local traffic. This came to mind because of the intersection change that's coming, whether that traffic, that left turn can be maintained on southbound Acres to eastbound Alexis, and that question hasn't been settled with ODOT yet. We have reopened that door to talk about it, to avoid the problem. But if there's truck traffic on there, that should be rerouted down to Whiteford or onto the expressway. And I'm not there enough to know if there's heavy truck traffic. I've never seen it myself, but I'm not there that often. That I'm familiar with speed humps. And then slowing down the traffic through a residential area, if the speed humps aren't doing it, let's get a recommendation from the safety director and the chief of police how to slow it down. Let's take care of that. It was an improved road, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, to put curbs and new pavement on it. It used to just have drainage ditches on the side and was an unimproved road. Let's straighten that out, because I do see traffic coming. So that, I think, is the first step. Survey what's going on now, and then do a circulation plan to solve what the problem. Part of the problem is US 23 intersection change, but it isn't expressway traffic. I don't think there's many vehicles coming down there to get on the expressway. They're coming down from the north. They're gonna go the other way and get on up at Stearns Road anyway. They're coming down to get to town. All right. Mrs. Capolini, further comments?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. We will discuss this at my staff meetings and get a recommendation of how to move forward from here. That's the last item on our agenda. There's just 3 informational pieces on the information. If there's no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and this council stands adjourned for 3 weeks to its next regularly scheduled meeting on Monday, December the 6th at 7:30 PM. Thank you all for attending.